I'm going to dial in a quick preset from scratch using the front panel. You have three distinct modes: presets, scenes, and effects. Presets let you configure the virtual pedal board any way you like using any four blocks. You can see this preset at the moment is totally empty, but if I move over here using the foot switch, I've got a compressor, wah, drive, and delay. I can then organize different combinations of those effects blocks into scenes, and I can access scenes one of two ways. I can use this select encoder over here, or I can assign the hold function of one of these foot switches to access scenes. In this case, if I press and hold foot switch number 2, this will give me access to scenes, and then I can go through different combinations on here. You can see scene 2 I've called Funky Comp, which is just using a compressor. Scene 3 is just using the compressor and the delay for a rhythmic delay, and then scene 4 uses all of the blocks on here, as well as a wah that I can auto-engage with an expression pedal on here. So that's how scenes work. The next layer down would be effects, where I can engage and disengage individual effects blocks. Let's just use the select encoder over here. Again, I can assign a hold function to access the effects layout on here. This way, this is what you see is what you get. I can just turn effects on and off as I see fit. Let's go back to that empty preset that I had. So I'll come over here to VP4, which is empty, and let's navigate down to the effects layer on here. In this layer, you can see A, B, C, and D will let me select the effect type. So if I come over here, let's select a compressor. I'm going to hit enter, and then if I hit enter again, I can select the compressor type that I want to use. Let's say I want to use the analog compressor. I can then hit enter one more time to get to my list of parameters on here, and you will notice a lot of the effects on here have a simplified layout compared to their equivalent on the Axe-FX 3, FM9, or FM3. In this case, I just want to tweak the ratio on this compressor. We're going to turn that up. If I hit exit, I can now engage and disengage this compressor with this foot switch. Let's just have a listen to it bypassed and then kicked in. I'm on the neck pickup tapped of my PRS DGT. This is providing a subtle fattening effect right there. Next, let's add a block into the second slot over here. I'm going to go with a drive block. So we'll hit enter again, enter to access the type. So many different types of drives in here. I'm going to go with the BB Pre-AT. If I hit enter, you can now see I've got access to the gain, bass, tone, and the output volume, just like the real pedal. So I'll just bring the gain down a little bit on this. We'll turn the volume up, and I might just add a little bit of treble and turn the bass down. This will give us a really smooth sounding drive, especially on this neck pickup. The way that one sounds. Next, let's add some time-based effects in the third effects slot. I'm going to select a delay, so we'll hit enter, enter again to access the types, and I'm just going to go with a very straightforward analog mono delay over here. If we hit enter one more time, we get access to the time. I can tempo sync these delays. I've got feedback, mix, and then if I use the select encoder and come down, I've also got a level control over there. So we'll leave the mix where it is. The time I'm just going to turn down to somewhere around 300 milliseconds. I will adjust the feedback. Let's turn that up so I have plenty of feedback on there. Let's have a listen to what this gives us. I like the percussive feel there with the clean tone, and there's just a little bit of filtering and kind of crust on there that makes it sit nicely with that distorted lead tone. Let's bypass both of these effects, and then in the last slot, we're going to scroll through and select a reverb. Now, you can run two ultra high quality reverbs in just about any patch on the VP4. So this makes a great addition to something like an FM3, or if you wanted to use it for the extra pitch blocks with an FM9, adding to an already existing Fractal rig, I think is going to appeal to a lot of people with the VP4. But let's select a reverb. The default is the large hall. You'll also see that the names are arranged in a different fashion to the AxeFX3, FM9, and FM3. So they're kind of grouped by type, which is nice. So let's go all the way through to the plate types. Go to the gold plate. Again, I will hit enter. You've got all your parameters accessible right here. I'm just going to turn the time on the reverb down a little bit, and let's have a listen to what the gold plate sounds like. Then I can use this effects layout to come through and just turn the individual effects on and off the way I would use a traditional pedal board. If I'm happy with those individual effects, I could go one step further and arrange them into scenes, which I've already done. So my first scene is just the compressor and the reverb. My second scene is going to use just the drive and the reverb. Fairly straightforward, but I don't have to tap dance here. I don't have to turn the compressor off with one tap and the drive on with another. I just hit the second scene and it does it for me. On the third scene, I've got the compressor, delay, and reverb engaged. And then on the fourth scene, I'm using all 4 blocks. One aspect of the Fractal ecosystem that's really interesting is while you have 4 individual blocks, you can have 4 distinct channels on each block as well. So I'll give you an example of that. In this particular scene, all the blocks are on channel A. So let's come through to the drive block. I'll hit enter. And what I can do is page back to the type. So on channel A, I'm using the BB pre. If I use the D encoder, I can come over here and select a totally different type and dial it in any way that I like. So I've got the griddle cake over here. I'm going to crank up the drive on the griddle cake, turn the presence down, and bring the level up. This is going to give me a very different drive sound on scene 4 only. If I go back, say, to scene 2, where I had channel A of the drive block, that will give me that very smooth BB pre-AT sound. But when I go to scene 4, I've not only engaged a bunch of different effects, I've actually totally changed the type and the parameters of the drive block. And again, there's 4 different options per block there. So you can get a lot of different sounds out of a single preset. Now, of course, there is a fully featured software editor for the VP4, which lets you do all of this from the convenience of your computer. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how you would use the VP4, like a bunch of physical pedals or a pedalboard switcher. Let's take a look at another effect just to give you another quick overview of how this entire system works. So at the moment, I'm on this grab and go preset. I'm on the presets layout. I'm going to select a different preset. I've called this one Rat Gods over here. What I'm going to do now is I want to access scenes. So I'm going to press and hold this second foot switch. This will now give me access to different scenes. Alternatively, I could just turn different effects on and off. I've set the hold function of the third foot switch to do that for me. But let's just go through the 4 scenes that I've gone through here. The names are pretty self-explanatory. We'll start out on scene 1, which is using a multi-tap delay for a 12/10 style chorus.